Hello and welcome back to Market Vibes by CA Sri Lanka. I am Oshada Divas Gunasekara and here's your monthly economic update for May 2025. Looking at inflation, the deflationary conditions we have been experiencing over the past few months eased in May 2025, with inflation measured by the Colombo Consumer Price Index being recorded at negative 0.7% on a year-on-year basis in May. The month-on-month rise in inflation was mainly due to the increase in food prices. An electricity tariff hike of 15% has just been confirmed and will come into effect from the middle of June 2025. However, the inflation is likely to be manageable and is likely to move gradually towards the central bank's target rate of 5%. Looking at interest rates, the central bank at its monetary policy meeting for May 2025 decided to cut policy rates by 25 bits. This move was mostly not expected by market participants. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka's latest inflation projections indicate a more gradual pickup in inflation, and the policy rate adjustment is expected to support the steering of inflation towards a target inflation rate of 5%. Looking at market interest rates, the market interest rates remain quite stable over the course of the month, with the AWPR ending at 8.37% by end May 2025. The average weighted deposit rate ended at 7.08% by the end of May 2025. The 12-month T-bill reduced to 7.98%, which is a reduction of about 32 bips from the previous month, and this was mainly on account of the policy rate revision as well. Looking at the exchange rate, the LKR remained broadly stable in May 2025, with the indicative rate that is published by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka closing at 299.44 rupees to the US dollar on the 30th of May 2025. The LKR has remained broadly stable so far in June as well. The gross official reserve position of Sri Lanka was recorded at $6.28 billion in May 2025, which is a decline of 1% compared to the previous month. However, the CBSL remained a net buyer of foreign currency from the market, with $257 million in net purchases being recorded during the month of May. Looking at external trade, Sri Lanka's export earnings improved by 10% on a year-on-year basis to $968 million in April 2025. However, there was a 22% decline on a month-on-month basis, mainly due to the seasonal impact amid the festival season affecting production levels in April. The year-on-year export growth in April was mainly driven by a 15% growth in the agricultural exports, plus a 14% growth in textile and garment exports. Imports increased 18% on a year-on-year basis to $1.69 billion in April 2025, with consumer goods imports increasing by 60% on a year-on-year basis, and the investment good imports also increasing by 50%. Majority of the consumer goods import growth was driven by the personal vehicle imports related expenditures. The trade account deficit expanded by 29% on a year-on-year basis to $718 million in April. Net earnings from services also improved by 22% to $368 million in the month of April. This was primarily due to improved tourism levels. Looking at tourist arrivals to the country, the number of tourists arriving in Sri Lanka improved by 19% on a year-on-year basis in May 2025. By the end of May, 132,919 persons had arrived in the country, bringing the year-to-date figure to 1,029,803 persons. The daily average arrivals stood at 4,288 in May 2025, which is slightly lower than what we've seen over the past few months, mainly due to the fact that the off-season has started from around the month of May. Looking at worker remittances into Sri Lanka remained at very healthy levels, with a growth of 18% on a year-on-year basis in May, which resulted in the total being recorded at $642 million. The current account balance for Sri Lanka was recorded at $178 million surplus in April 2025. Looking at the capital markets, the Colombo Stock Exchange continued to rebound in May and so far in June as well, as negotiations on the US reciprocal tariffs progressed, with a more positive outcome becoming more likely. Accordingly, by the end of May, the ASPI was up 7% on a month-on-month basis, whilst the more liquid S&P SL20 index was up 7% also during the month. The all-share price index is up a further 4% as at 9th June 2025. And with that, we will wrap up this month's Market Vibe session. Thank you.